High Commander Kraksik adjusted his ceremonial battle armor as he gazed upon the blue world through the reinforced viewport of his command vessel, the Eternal Conquest. Behind him stretched the most formidable invasion fleet the Vorthak hegemony had assembled in over a millennium, 12,000 ships carrying 3 billion warriors, ready to claim this resource-rich planet for the glory of the Empire. Commander, his intelligence officer, Sub-Marshal Thistle, approached with a data tablet clutched in her clawed hands. Our advanced scouts confirm the preliminary reports. The humans possess only basic fusion technology, primitive chemical rockets, and electromagnetic weapons. Their population centers show no evidence of planetary defense shields or orbital bombardment platforms. Kraksik's mandibles spread wide in what passed for a smile among his kind. The Vorthak had conquered 47 worlds in the past century, each one falling within days of their arrival. Earth would be no different, perhaps even easier than most. Intelligence suggested these humans had never faced a true interstellar threat. "What of their military capabilities?" he inquired, though his tone suggested the answer mattered little. "Laughable," Thistle replied, with obvious disdain. "Their largest vessels are barely 300 meters long. They rely on projectile weapons and crude missile systems. Our individual fighters possess more firepower than their greatest warships." The High Commander studied the tactical display showing Earth's defensive positions. A few orbital stations scattered through the system like afterthoughts. Small patrol craft that would be vaporized by a single shot from his flagship's main cannon. It would hardly be worthy of being called a battle. "Open a channel to the planet," Kraksik commanded. "Let us offer them the courtesy of surrender before we demonstrate the futility of resistance." The main screen flickered to life, revealing a human command center. A middle-aged man in a simple blue uniform appeared General Marcus Torres of what the humans called their Global Defense Initiative. His dark eyes held no fear, only a cold calculation that briefly puzzled the Vorthak commander. "I am High Commander Kraksik of the Vorthak hegemony," he announced, his translator rendering his words in the human language. "Your world has been selected for integration into our empire. Surrender immediately, and your population will be granted the honor of serving as laborers in our expanding civilization." General Torres leaned back in his chair, a strange expression crossing his features, one that Kraksik would later recognize as pity. "Commander," Torres spoke quietly, "I'm going to give you one chance to withdraw your forces. Turn around and leave our system immediately. This is your only warning." The bridge of the Eternal Conquest erupted in laughter from the crew. Kraksik himself found the humans' audacity both amusing and insulting. "You dare threaten us?" Kraksik's voice carried across the channel. "We have conquered worlds that spanned galaxies when your species was still dwelling in caves. Your pathetic fleet couldn't damage a single one of our escort vessels." Torres nodded slowly, sadness evident in his eyes. "I was afraid you'd say that." He paused, then spoke a single word: "Execute Omega Protocol." For a moment, nothing happened. Then space around Earth began to change. What Kraksik had assumed were simple orbital platforms, suddenly unfolded like deadly flowers, revealing themselves to be far larger and more complex than his sensors had indicated. Massive structures that had been disguised as asteroids throughout the solar system came online simultaneously, their surfaces crackling with energies that made his instruments scream warnings. "Commander?" His sensor operator's voice cracked with panic. "I'm reading impossible energy signatures throughout the system. These readings suggest technology centuries beyond our own." Before Kraksik could respond, the first wave hit his fleet. It wasn't weapons fire in any conventional sense. Instead, streams of coherent antimatter, contained and directed by magnetic fields of incomprehensible power, swept through his formation like death itself. Ships that had taken months to construct vanished in microseconds, their atoms torn apart at the quantum level. The Iron Devastator, a dreadnought-class vessel that had survived battles against entire civilizations, simply ceased to exist as a lance of pure annihilation passed through its position. Where it had been, only empty space remained, not even debris. Impossible. Craxic roared. Our intelligence indicated primitive technology. How do they possess antimatter weapons of this magnitude? His tactical officer, her voice shaking with terror, provided the answer. Sir, our deep space reconnaissance was wrong. They weren't hiding their technology, they were hiding their entire civilization's true nature. These humans, they've been spacefaring for far longer than we believed. On the view screen, General Torres reappeared, his expression grim but resolute. Commander, what you're seeing is the result of 800 years of secret technological development. When humanity first detected signs of hostile alien civilizations, we made a choice. We would appear primitive and vulnerable while building the most advanced military force in this galaxy. Another wave of antimatter beams swept through the Vorthak fleet. Entire squadrons vanished as Earth's hidden weapons platforms revealed their true power. What had appeared to be a handful of simple orbital stations were actually nexus points for a planetary defense grid that had been centuries in the making. Every asteroid you scanned, every piece of space debris, every seemingly natural celestial object in our system has been converted into a weapons platform. Torres continued. We've been preparing for species like yours for 8 centuries. We knew you would come eventually. Craxic watched his mighty armada dissolving around him like salt in acid. Ships that had conquered star systems were being eliminated with contemptuous ease. The humans weren't just fighting back, they were systematically exterminating his entire invasion force. But our scouts, he protested desperately. Our intelligence networks. How did we miss this? Torres's smile held no warmth. Because we wanted you to miss it. Every piece of information your spies gathered, every scan your reconnaissance vessels made, every communication they intercepted, we fed you exactly what we wanted you to know. We've been aware of your species for over 200 years, Commander. We've been planning for this day since before your grandfather was born. The horrifying truth crashed down on Craxic like a collapsing star. The Vorthak hegemony, with all its might and technological superiority, had been played like children. Earth wasn't a primitive world ripe for conquest. It was a trap, baited specifically for aggressive species like his own. Around him, his bridge crew worked frantically to coordinate a retreat, but it was already too late. The human weapons weren't just destroying ships, they were preventing escape. Artificial singularities appeared at jump points, crushing vessels that tried to flee into hyperspace. Tachyon inhibitors made faster-than-light communication impossible, cutting off any hope of warning the homeworld. Sir, Thistle reported, her voice barely above a whisper, fleet strength is down to 8% and falling. Estimated time to total annihilation, 14 minutes. Craxic stared at the tactical display in numb horror. In less than an hour, the mightiest invasion force in Vorthak history had been reduced to scattered debris and expanding clouds of plasma. And through it all, Earth hung in space like a blue jewel, serene and untouchable. General Torres, he spoke into the comm, his pride finally broken. I surrender. Please, spare my remaining ships. We yield completely. Torres shook his head slowly. I'm sorry, Commander, but that's not how this works. You came here expecting to enslave or exterminate 8 billion people. The message we send today has to be clear enough that other species will think very carefully before making the same mistake. The last thing High Commander Craxic saw was a brilliant flash as Earth's final antimatter salvo reached his flagship. In the silence of space, the Eternal Conquest joined the rest of his armada in oblivion. Later, automated beacons would spread the story throughout the galaxy, how the Vorthark hegemony's greatest fleet had vanished without a trace in the Sol system. How Earth, that quiet blue world, had defended itself with technology that made galactic civilizations tremble. And in the depths of space, hidden weapons platforms powered down and returned to their disguise as harmless debris, waiting patiently for the next species arrogant enough to mistake humanity's apparent weakness for actual vulnerability. The lesson was clear: Earth yielded to no one.